serious threat to both the Fairfield and Monterey passes that the Confederate Army would need to use in the event of a retreat. And so General Jones will gather reserve troops and begin to head south to encounter the Union threat.
Did you hear that? Did you hear him? Oh!
Things get hot on the battlefield in more ways than one.
You hear what he said?
And what you're seeing out there is dismounted cavalry on the Confederate side. Not unusual at all for cavalrymen to dismount and take advantage of fences and stone walls and pythons. Our dismounted cavalry is using, Confederate cavalry is using carbines, shorter rifles that they could more easily carry and fire from horseback. And that's probably the weapon that gives cavalry soldiers on either side the greatest range and fire. You've also noticed that in the forward lines, our Union cavalry is using sabers. Essentially, they are curved swords. Also, we notice in the distance, the Union Federal Cavalry is using pistols. Probably the best armed soldiers in a Civil War battlefield is the cavalry with a variety of different types of small arms. Cavalry is the most mobile arm in Civil War service. Cavalry is used for scouting purposes, intelligence gathering. It's also used to screen your army, provide a buffer between your infantry and artillery and the enemy. The cavalry fighting that you see here before you today is very typical of cavalry fighting. Charges, melees, withdrawals, reform, countercharges, constantly reforming, charging again and again. Very up-close personal work, more intense close-up work as you have in the Civil War than any other branch of service. And now the dismounted Union cavalry gets involved. These light dismounted units are called skirmishers. They tend to be out in front of your lines. They're the first warning that you get of the presence of the enemy. By moving skirmishers a fraction of your total force forward, you encounter the enemy. By drawing fire, you can determine the strength of the enemy and their position, and quite often their direction and intentions. It gives your main body some warning of what's about to hit them. Just as with the infantry, typical tactical movements involve the attempt to flank an enemy, to get around the end of their line where you can deliver a fire on their sides or their rear that's difficult to return, also to create disorder in the enemy's lines, create confusion. But you also notice on the uniforms of both sides, the men tend to have gold trim on the uniform, particularly on the chevrons of the corporals and the sergeants' sleeves.